Hi, welcome back. We are going to go ahead and learn vocabulary for this next part of the lesson. This is going to be for your food storage challenge, which will take place later today. So what I need you to do is open your notebook, but you don't have to make notes yet. So just sit tight. I'm going to go ahead and add some new vocabulary words for you, and we will go from there. The first one is physical properties. A physical property is something that you observe with your senses. So think about this. We have 5 senses. Sight, when I see, when I hear, when I smell, when I taste, or when I touch. So if I say, oh, the ice is cold, that is a physical property because I have used my sense of touch to identify that the ice was cold. That is a physical property. So anytime you use your senses, that is physical. A chemical property lets us know how a substance or how something reacts with something else. So if I have a match, pretend I'm going to start a fire, that match lights up. So if I am lighting a candle for a cake, or if I am going to burn something, if it burns, that's called flammability, and therefore that is a chemical property. So that, just to let you know about that. So let's move on to the next one. Physical change. A physical change is when a change takes place, but the object is exactly the same. So let me give you an example. If I take this piece of paper, if I take a piece of paper and I tear it into pieces, is it still paper? Yes, it's just not a big piece of paper anymore. So it's still paper. So therefore, all I have done is change the physical way that the paper looks. So this is a physical change. Think real quick about another physical change. What else could be a physical change? What about you? When you grow, now you might be small, but in a few years, you will be tall. That is a physical change. Let's go on to the next one. A chemical change. Chemical change is when something changes, an item changes to something else. Let's go back to the match. If I light the match to start my campfire, the match no longer looks like a match anymore. It is gone. It just turns to ash. Let's say that I'm building a campfire and I put a piece of wood on the fire. When I take the wood out after the fire is all done, is it still a piece of wood? No, it is ash. So that is a chemical change. If I take my bicycle outside and I forget and I leave it outside during the rain, and I go check on it a couple days later, it might have rust on it. That's called oxidation. And rust is a chemical change because the metal is changing. It's reacting with the rain and the oxygen in the air. So that's called oxidation, also known as rust. In your notebook, I want you to make a T-chart like the one you see on the screen. And a T-chart, think about the letter T. So take a few seconds and make a T-chart. On the left side, it will say physical change. On the right side, it will say chemical change. Let's take a couple seconds to do that now. Your teacher may need to pause this so that way you have time to write the words you see on the screen. Now that we're finished making our T-chart, we are going to look at a series of pictures, and you should see these at your tables. These pictures just represent different items, and I want to see how you are with sorting them. You have crumpling paper, and crumpling paper just means it's rolled in a ball. You have melting ice, rusting iron, baking a cake, burning wood, popping popcorn, breaking a bottle, slicing cheese, slicing a sandwich, rotting fruit. Now that's something that you don't do, but if you let fruit sit somewhere, it will just start changing colors. Crushing a can, burning gas. That's when even when you're in an automobile, the gas is actually burning, but you just don't see that. Roasting marshmallows. That's what I like to do over the campfire. Boiling water to make your tea. Cooking pancakes. I don't think you're familiar with pancakes, but they are something that we eat for breakfast in the United States. And then shredding paper. That's when we take the paper and we turn it into little teeny tiny pieces of paper, and that is called shredding. Okay, that's shredding paper. So I want you to work with your team, and I want you to identify, is that picture physical or is it chemical? And then on your table, on your T chart, I want you to write out, so for example, crumpling paper, is that physical or chemical? If you think it's physical, then I want you to put it over here on the physical side. If you think it's chemical, then put it on the chemical side. Work with your crew members, and you can discuss and talk about what you think these correct items are. If you have questions, raise your hand so the teacher can help you, and then later on she will share the answers with you because they have already been sent to her secret location. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to do a challenge. So if you are not ready for the challenge yet because you're still working on the T chart, the teacher's going to pause the video so that way we can move together to the challenge at one time, because you're going to need to get out of your seats for this challenge in just a few minutes. So now, if you are ready to move on, I want you to look at the materials that have been put out on the table. There should be a piece of cloth, and if there's not, think about what you have on. If you have your VGCC shirt on, that is a piece of cloth. There might be a piece of metal. It could be something like a can. It might be something like a piece of aluminum foil. It's probably something that's sitting there. There might be a piece of glass. Maybe a glass jar, maybe a glass bottle, maybe a glass that somebody has used for drinking. Then some plastic wrap. Plastic wrap is what you might see when you are done eating and somebody has covered up the food that's left over. You should have paper on the table, a plastic container. And if there's not a plastic container, think about when you go to the cafeteria, if they give you yogurt, that's a plastic container. Also, laminated plastic wrap. Laminated plastic wrap is usually, it feels like a thicker piece of paper. It feels smooth, and it's usually for wrapping maybe meat or another product, maybe fish. Sometimes when you go to the store, they might wrap your meat in some type of a paper, and that's what that would be for. So I want you to look at those that have been put on the table. Now, what you're going to do with these is you are going to think about how we would use these in space. If we are using these food items, these food wrappings, would they be a good idea for using in space? Okay, let's look at that piece of cloth. Or again, if there's no cloth on the table, let's think about cloth. If I needed to wrap cloth around my food, is that a good choice? So think about that for a second. If I was to take my VGCC shirt and wrap it around, let's say, a piece of durian, would that be, what's a good way? Why would I want to use cloth for wrapping or packaging food? So think about that. And let's do the first one together. So if I think about cloth, is cloth, if I have an old shirt that I can't wear anymore, could I use that? So that means I haven't had to buy it. So that means I could say that it's inexpensive. And it might also be good, let's say that I need to buy several lychees at the grocery store and I don't have a bag or my bag breaks, and I could probably stand up and put them in my shirt until I can get home, so I could carry my lychee from the store to my house. So in that case, that's what we call a pro. A pro is something that's good about that item. So again, going back to the fabric, if I have fabric, again, it's not expensive, especially if I'm using an old shirt, which is really a good idea. Or like I said, oh my goodness, my lychee, my bag broke and I got to pick them up. I still have to get home. I could use my shirt and put them in my shirt and hold them until I got home. So that's good things. Now, let's think about this. What would be a bad reason for using my shirt for wrapping up food? So think about that just for a second. Why would I not want to use my shirt or a piece of cloth for packaging or wrapping food? Well, let's think about this. If I wanted to, let's say I'm coming to visit you and I want to bring you a chicken, and we're going to have this chicken or this duck for dinner. If I don't bring the duck just the way it is and I wrap it in a shirt, is that something that looks really nice? Probably not. So it may just not be pretty. Can the shirt protect the duck from getting damaged? Can it protect it from when I drop it? If I drop the duck and it's wrapped in my shirt, will the duck come rolling out? So the duck could get dirty. So it may be something like that. So these are things I want you to just kind of think about this, because these are things that we're going to do in the next challenge, that when we go to space, why we need to be thinking about this. So I want you to work through those items that you see on the table. And if they're not all there, it's not a big concern, because you should know what metal looks like. Think about a metal can. When I went to the store last year in China, I got some of my food in metal cans. So you should know what a metal can looks like. Or glass, maybe a glass jar, a glass bottle. So things like that. Plastic wrap. The plastic wrap, I know when I bought lychee last year at the grocery store, there was plastic wrap around the top of the lychee so it wouldn't fall out of the package. And then I also mentioned laminated plastic wrap. I don't remember seeing butter in China, but in the United States we use this laminated plastic wrap for butter. So that's something to think about as well. Structured plastic, that would be a little plastic container. So if I am, let's say I'm buying sushi and I want to get it, it might come in a plastic container. Or if I'm buying soup and it doesn't come in a paper cup, it might come in a plastic container. So that's something to think about. And then paper. Would I want to just wrap my duck in a piece of paper? So these are things I want you to think about, because these are going to be related to the challenge we're going to do next. And I think you're going to really like that, because you're going to have to build something. So I just want you to be aware of that. And cardboard, I probably didn't mention cardboard before, but think about this. Do things come in cardboard? Sometimes I know that when I bought cereal in China last year, it was in a cardboard box. So you can use cardboard, couldn't you? Maybe you can use cardboard and something else to protect the item. So these are things to think about, and just kind of talk it amongst yourselves. There's a chart that you guys can fill in together. You don't have to do this individually, because this is a great time to see what we already know, so then when we go to build, we can kind of move on from there. So if you have questions, make sure you ask, and we can we'll pick up there after you finish this activity. And I hope you're having fun today, because we're going to be building something soon. I'll talk to you in a little while.